Hey everyone, it's Zach with Palantir Research. This week, Palantir won a monumental deal everyone has been waiting for, but also insider selling starts taking over the narrative for some at these recent highs. Plus, there was awards won by Palantir and being ranked a top AI company, and one of our favorite analysts also putting out her rating again. So looking at the stock first, Palantir was quite volatile last week, flying up from the 19s into the high 21s, but closing off the week back down at 19s. And then taking a farther look perspective, at least with daily candles, we get to an interesting point here where we'll be testing out that $19 range again, which was previously acting as resistance before. So next week, price-wise, we'll see if 19 will hold or if we further test downwards below the $18 range. Now, what was all the news for this week? And probably more importantly, after such an eventful week, what does this mean to me and what I'm looking forward to? So we got to start with the big news, which is finally closing out the NHS FDP contract. Now, it's important to note the media frenzy was utilizing the previous contract details as well as YouTubers that actually closed out in a February 2023 of £360 million for 5 years with a possible 12 plus 12 extension or 2 years at 120 million additional pounds. So that's for a total of 480 million pounds. However, the official notice on NHS England's website indicates 330 million pounds, specifically citing 7 years. So it's a very big discrepancy here. And then side note, this was expected, but Palantir does share this amount with other vendors listed as well in that PR. So digging onto the latest contracts finder data hosted by the UK government themselves, we're still able to find those previously advertised numbers like I mentioned, but the 330 million pounds contract is nowhere to be seen, at least from what I can find. So my guess is it might be wrapped up under a different name or project or has still yet to be published, so I'll keep an eye out there. But the biggest value though to all of this is still that qualitative side. This gives Palantir the chance to demonstrate to not only the UK, but the whole world what they can do at scale for such a large health system, and that's managing a whole country basically. And plenty of other potential organizations may want to implement similar programs like the FDP over time. And quick note, just to be aware, some FUD still is coming out in regards to Palantir and the NHS. So even with the contract won, there can still be negative PR from those trying to tarnish the reputation of Palantir out there, or just that to make sure the FDP in general, with the big culprit being information around their opting out, just trying to get people all confused about the situation. The FAQ clearly states, and this is on the NHS England's website, so this is just for research purposes that you can opt out of here, not for the clinical operations, which is what the FDP is doing, and it makes sense to keep it that way because you actually need to run this and have providers get access to that information. Now, the next biggest news cycle this week, insiders have to disclose when they're selling, obviously, because us as outside public investors need to have that transparency into their dealings with their own company stock. So quick lesson, we see the Form 144s, which are the transactions themselves, but within 2 days of that transactions, buying or selling, of course, we have to get the Form 4s, which is the statement of change in beneficial ownership. So I've already gone over the transactions and changes in ownership in different previous daily Palantirs as they happen, but take the time to closely look, especially at Alex Karp's, because I think he's probably the most important person to look at, and you can see the exact shares which are sold for tax withholdings, while the others being sold on the open market just after converting from Class B to A. Now, probably more importantly though, is to look at column 5, which shows the remaining shares post-transactions, and you can see this number here for the Class A shares up here, and then down below you can see Karp's RSUs as well as Class B shares below. And for one transaction too that didn't make it to any videos Friday, we got there later afterwards. We got another small insider transaction at 30,573 shares for a total of $602,000, and that's at an average price of $19.69. So that's pretty much it here. I'll keep an eye out for more transactions as well to more insider selling in case we do see anything of a larger proportion though that's more noteworthy. So the big news though out of the way, what else was important? Well, for OpenAI, their public display of dysfunction, you could say that, looks like went full circle with Sam Altman getting fired last week, Friday, and then ultimately after the song and dance with Microsoft and the board, Altman has landed back at OpenAI with a new board. So we'll see if this has an effect on their image or products over time, but I'm still in the boat, at least on the face to enterprise customers, that OpenAI looks just a little less stable, albeit things have settled down now. Then we got Nvidia's earnings coming out, and they were greater than expected, honestly. And this is its high expectations already baked in for the company. Now, you can check out the details on your own here with their earnings release, but essentially revenue and income are highly explosively growing, and despite geopolitical headwinds with export restrictions to one of the largest markets in the world, of course, with China, they still expect the decline to be offset by strong growth everywhere else. So if that isn't great signs as a precursor, at least to artificial intelligence in general, which of course Palantir is a part of, then I don't know what is. But essentially, at least for Palantir, it will take time with this trickle-down effect of providing compute to eventually do the things organizations want with the products that Palantir does with the data, of course, the company has. And with Kroc Institute, they awarded Dr. Karp and essentially Palantir the Tech Freedom Award for all their work with Ukraine, Israel, and just standing up for Western principles through their actions and technology, as well as you can say their rhetoric and the way that they speak. So the importance of walking the talk when it comes to delivering products to much allies or against enemies of the world continues to build Palantir's reputation. And even though divisive, taking a stand today, in my own personal opinion, first leads to a better reputation socially, because you'll never make everyone happy anyway. So why not double down on what you truly believe in and support? But also business-wise, customers knows exactly what they're going to get and what to expect. And we know this already isolates those who don't stand with the United States and the West, like China and the allies. But either way, you weren't going to be customers with them or working with them in general. And then Mariana Perez Mora, the big Palantir bull from Bank of America, mostly I think because they see the holistic business opportunity for both commercial and government. But either way, they keep their buy rating and $21 price target. And they cited top-line growth and margins as the positives and some upcoming catalysts with the NHS contract over with. They still bring up the S&P inclusion and the huge Titan program for the U.S. military. So it'll be interesting to track this over time to see if Bank of America changes its tone down the line in either direction, though, of course, so it can go up or down, and just to see if they have another reiteration later on. So then Palantir gets also the number 2 spot on Everest Group's first artificial intelligence top 50 list. You'll see plenty of familiar names alongside like OpenAI at number 1, but also Databricks and even C3 AI, surprisingly, even with the bad press they may have gotten in regards to their products. So it's great for the marketing part and Palantir to tout out, which they did on Twitter. So hopefully to see more and more recognition over time as Palantir being a top AI player and hopefully being number 1 as much as they can when possible. Now, if you want a very long-term look at this, do you think Palantir will be around for the next decade? Do you think their products will become more, less, or the same in terms of relevancy, scalability, value given, and business generated for the company? It's probably not a simple cut and dry answer here, obviously, especially as more competitors enter the landscape, but also with the growing TAM, who knows how this will play out for sure and how big it'll get. I'd say in my own personal opinion here, the long-term trend is still in Palantir's favor, even with competitors joining in, because all aspects of businesses are going to be touched with some form of artificial intelligence, of course, with automation. But more importantly, what Palantir provides is the controls and infrastructure around that so that it's responsibly deployed or at least auditable for these companies, and then use this especially in cases in relations to organizations ontology, which I think is the most valuable part of this whole package here. And that's just what I think based on the demos, use cases, client perspectives, basically everything that is publicly available and told by management. Someone else with a different background or view can think otherwise, and that's okay. But that's my viewpoint on the short and long-term basis here, especially when I think it's important to share when all we see on the news and the charts is the whiplash and seesaw action happening up and down. So it's just another day here, but I'll see you in the next video.